Welcome to TIDES. Today, we are exploring the transformative impact of AI on product development and innovation in the tech world. Leading us through this discussion is Kundan Joshi, a true pioneer in technology and artificial intelligence. As the founder and CEO of TheAppLabb, Kundan has driven the development of over 750 innovative apps for global giants like Unilever, Samsung, and RBC. His contributions have not only positioned TheAppLabb as a top developer in Canada and the US, but his work has also earned him recognition as a top Canadian immigrant and as a member of the Forbes Technology Council. We are thrilled to dive into the mind behind one of Canada's most visionary tech leaders. Welcome to TIDES, Kundan.
Thank you, Shweta. I feel very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, Kundan, you've built over 750 apps, many of which involve AI, I'm sure. Can you share how the TheAppLabb has evolved with AI and what were some of the key milestones in this journey?
Yeah, AI, obviously, Gen AI has completely changed the definition of AI and what it means and the impact that it provides. Believe it or not, we've been dabbling with AI for a good part of last 12, 13 years. Started TheAppLabb 17 years back, mainly got fascinated with smartphones, so was able to get that curve right with smartphones and started TheAppLabb before the iPhone was born. So it was just timed right and ripe for our pickings as we really dabbled into how do we build amazing customer experiences using apps on the smartphones and really use that to drive business outcomes. Not much has changed over our evolution in terms of ability to create human experiences for the end customers that use the apps that we create, and creating those experiences in such a way that we are driving business value and business outcomes for our customers, right? Which is mainly large enterprises and mid-market companies in Canada and US. AI, however, has changed definition in terms of our ability to drive those business results for our customers. And over time, it has also enabled us to create better experiences for our customers as well. So both two aspects, just putting each of those in steroids, but it has sort of, that curve has taken up over the time. Early days, we were, when we were dabbling with having use cases like using machine learning for predictive analytics, for really understanding how can we make better real-time decision-making within the apps, if it's an employee-facing app or for the customer, in order for them to sort of have that experience. And then that transformed into using integrated machine learning for personalization. How can we now understand the customer better from their behavior on the app, from their transaction history, how they interact with different products, what are they searching within the app, to then, for the subsequent visits, try and provide them better recommendations, better journeys through their ability to shop on the app or transact on the app in one way or form, to now being truly predictive in nature, anticipating their behavior, anticipating their needs, right? Not in the second time they're logging in, but right when they come to the app for the first time, every move they make, every kind of interaction they make, how can we provide a better experience, make it more frictionless every single time? So we're pretty much ensuring that as they are interacting with the app, we are behind them, ensuring that that experience gets more and more frictionless. So the same thing, except now with the type of gaps we can fill with Gen AI and much better machine learning and AI experience as a whole, we can now get a lot better at creating those apps that are truly driving value for the customers. And what happens as a result, obviously, when the customer has a great experience, now we are able to retain them better. We are able to drive more products to the same customer. We are able to just increase, obviously, lifetime value of the customer for our clients, and it's kind of a win-win by integrating AI seamlessly into every application that we build.
Well, you mentioned you tried to distinguish between AI the way we used to use AI before Gen AI and now how we use AI. So it is definitely a buzzword that we hear all the time. But in your view, what is the most transformative application or use of AI today, broadly speaking?
Yeah, I would say, the biggest impact that technology can make, especially AI, is in healthcare, right? And I believe, right now, in a lot of healthcare applications that we are creating, kind of started with how are we improving the patient experience? How are we making that process of getting access to healthcare a lot more frictionless? But now we are able to be a lot more predictive in terms of diagnosis, predictive in terms of providing the right kind of the right practitioner, uh, 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 the right kind of medical provision to the patient at the right time. But also helping with monitoring, health monitoring, and what's happening right now is we are truly getting towards predictive healthcare. Slowly, we are inching towards that. But a lot of those applications, especially with telemedicine and telehealth, now that you have access to that data, but at the same time, you have ability to keep it anonymized, maintaining privacy and security. And while doing that, you're still able to provide that personalized experience from healthcare is truly driving to a lot of those health outcomes, right? And the more predictive we can get from a healthcare standpoint, I think that's where a major transformation lies. So we're already seeing that with a lot of mental health apps that we've created. We're seeing that with a lot of remote monitoring apps that we've created. There's some interesting stuff happening between edge and IoT and ability to deliver AI. So that intersection is going to be very interesting. It's already giving a lot of results. Going to continue to do that, especially in healthcare. So that's what I would say, the most transformative, because it's actually curing humans, it's preventing diseases. So that's probably what I would weigh high
Mhm.
in terms of ability to create transformation via AI.
Yeah, which is very interesting. And I was wondering, like, AI has led to innovation being on steroids, and you mentioned healthcare specifically that you're seeing being disrupted in a big way. But why do you think this shift is happening now? And what are the factors that are driving it? Is it just AI or is it a variety of things?
Yeah, there's reason for why AI is where it is right now. And very few pundits in the tech ecosystem would have timed it right in terms of when it came about. I mean, folks who created it were also surprised at the results. And I think it's come about due to various reasons, right? One being just Moore's law, right? I mean, the computational power has continued to increase, and we are at that level where it's very strong and it's providing, obviously, it's ripe for pickings in terms of the kind of impact and results that you're seeing. The other aspect being obviously cloud, and how, like, again, the number of applications that are on cloud, which has enabled AI models and algorithms to really be effective. And the third and the most important one is access to data, right? I mean, the amount of data we have right now on every single aspect is just phenomenal. I mean, if you use ChatGPT, right? What ChatGPT? I mean, in essence, like you put whatever a prompt or asking a question or whatnot, the answer is just what's the next word, as simple as that. The only thing that ChatGPT does is what is the next word, and it keeps on guessing the next word, next word. The reason it's able to provide such accurate information to a great extent, as long as the prompt is great, the better the prompt, the lesser the hallucinations, obviously, is because the vast amount of data that we have on cloud right now, right? I mean, so now whatever billions of different permutations and combinations it has, the more amount of data, the better chances of it predicting what the next word is, right? So those three, I would say, are the key factors to where we are. I think the level of digital transformation across has also been critical in terms of ability to use AI in a big way. Now, again, when it comes to the enterprise world, there are still a lot of gaps and a lot of that needs to be transformed in order to truly harness the power of AI in many ways. Although we see a lot of applications, the from a truly business sense, the amount of investment we've made in AI across the globe, the results that we achieved from AI are not there yet, right? So from an economic sense, a lot more has been put into AI than what we have taken out of AI. And the main reason is we still need to do a lot of transformation from a data standpoint. I mean, we don't have great data in most of the large organizations in the world. We have good data, but we also have a lot of bad data. We don't have great data architecture. We don't have great integrations to really ensure we are able to maximize the power of that data in essence. So a lot of that work needs to happen to truly convert a lot of this investment that has gone into AI into the right ROI in essence. But that being said, I mean, even today, there's if used correctly, if focused on it the right way and given the right amount of importance, which is quite a bit, a lot of business benefits are right for the taking even today.
Mm-hmm. You spoke about digital transformation. I'm curious to learn from your perspective. How do you see the digital transformation due to AI different than digital transformation that companies have been on for, I would say, a couple of decades now?
Yeah, I would say it's just a matter of scale, right? I mean, internet, mobile, it did allow us to question things from a first principles thinking to a certain extent. But that was mainly due to a new channel that was available to us, right? I mean, okay, here, internet's a new channel, which was a big channel, right? Now you can connect to the whole world in essence and access information from anyone and anywhere, right? So it was a big channel in many ways and kind of allowed you to do first principles thinking in terms of, okay, let's question again, right? I mean, the invention of websites, the invention of ability to put content on the internet. Same with mobile, right? In terms of certain applications, there was certain amount of first principles thinking that went into it. But in many cases, it was a digital transformation of a physical process, of an existing business process. Okay, let's now interpret it digitally, and this is what it looks like, right? So as much as you may say that was first principles thinking, it really wasn't. It was just a different form factor. With AI, there's a fundamental difference there, right? I mean, one, the same kind of digital transformation, right, from a business process to a digital process that still does exist, right? I mean, it's a different channel, it's a different form factor to a certain extent, right? But more importantly, it truly allows you to put in first principles thinking to your organization, to your processes, to how you're processing your data, to how you are actually delivering your services, your products, and so on, right? It impacts different industries in different ways. Fundamentally, I don't think any other technology had such an impact on technology industry itself. Where in
Mm-hmm.
technology industry, it wasn't first principles thinking when it comes to internet and mobile. It was just a different channel. And okay, now let's use technology for that. In this case, you have like in the tech sector, you have to reshift your thinking altogether in terms of what does it mean to be an AI native company? What does it mean to have AI native processes? What does it mean to have AI native technology, right? And if you don't apply those first principles thinking, and if we get stuck in the way we have been doing things, in the way we have been doing business processes, doing digital transformation, all of that stuff, we might make a lot more mismoves and wrong steps. So really thinking from a first principles thinking becomes very critical here, and as a result, the size mission. And just I mean, if you were to compare, it's not apples to apples, but if it was apples to apples, still, I mean, it's on steroids, right? I mean, so it's the pace at which the technology itself is evolving is extremely fast, right? I mean, you had iPhone was launched and the next version of iPhone was launched and the Android was launched and the next version, it was fast, right? But every version of GPT and every version of Claude and Llama, I mean, the number of companies you see disrupted with every version of it, the number of startups that were created within the last few months becoming completely obsolete with every new version of it. I mean, that pace is unprecedented, right? So that pace of change, that pace of evolution it wasn't that fast in terms of technology evolving itself. That pace is completely unprecedented, and that's where it does not compare at all with any of the previous shifts in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you rightly point out. I think the scope, scale, and speed of this change is definitely unprecedented. So I'm wondering, like from your perspective, how do organizations then start adopting and adapting with AI? Like how I will zoom into your organization. How is your organization impacted? What's happening differently now than before pre-Gen AI era,
Yeah, I mean,
from maybe people, process, technology perspective?
yeah, totally, totally. So I would say like two things are critical for AI adoption, right? I mean, one, I mean, hey, I mean, sure AI, but we can't implement AI unless we are AI ready, right? And in order to be AI ready, two things need to be clear and have to be locked in, which is one, processes, and second, data, right? If you don't have
Mm-hmm.
access to data, you don't have access to clean data, you don't have access to the right data, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
the right processes, you don't have clear identification and prioritization of what those processes are, then again, AI journey can begin. When the AI journey begins, then the people journey begins along with that, because it's your folks who will adopt that
Mm-hmm.
AI and how you kind of practice it in essence, right? So that data journey has to come start. So for us, similarly, I mean, in both cases, for us implementing as an organization, us to be really clear about what data to use, right? 80% of the data is garbage, right? It's what that 20% data, which is gold, is important. In order to identify that 20% data, the clarity of business results and what you want to achieve and what are your goals becomes extremely important, right? Otherwise, everything can be important, and that's just not possible with limited resources. So really being focused on what business results we want to drive. So in our cases, if you want to, let's say, we want to drive mainly outcome for our customers, right? In terms of, let's say, speed of delivery, right? Across all projects in us. So now that's an outcome. For that, what data do we need? What processes do we need to look at in order to actually achieve the results in essence, right? So that becomes one. So for our journey, those were the critical blocks to kind of identify, to make sure a single source of truth when it came to the data. We had proper integration so that in one. So basically, I mean, like in a figurative sense, imagine if this is my room, can I put all my data in this room, right? I mean, let's say I take printouts and put it in the room, and now
Mm-hmm.
I know, okay, what are all different pieces of data, and how do I get access to that data in order to bring it together, right? And then after that, I'm going to rip some of the pieces, like that's not important, that's not important. Now I have more clarity. Okay, these are the pieces of data that I need. Now, whichever way I integrate so that I know that I have access to that. And then obviously the process, okay, which processes are going to enable me to use that data in a way that that can actually get me to the outcomes, right? So then I can start layering AI on top of that data and the processes in order to start seeing the results in essence, right? Same for our customers. We kind of guide them through the same journey. For us, is two things, right? We've always been extremely human centric as an organization for our customers. So really, let's look at our customers first. Let's understand what pain point are you trying to solve for your customer, and what product are you going to build that's going to help you achieve that. Now, how is that product is going to achieve the ideal business results for you? Let's pick one business result that you really want to impact. So we build a lot of apps in the retail world for large retail chains. So usually the metric there is you want to increase customer retention. Okay, let's identify a number. We want to increase retention by 20%, 30%. Now let's make sure, okay, so that's great. Now let's make sure how do you want to build that experience? What is the customer journey? What pain points do you want to take out of that customer journey? So that's on the front end. At the same time, in parallel, we are doing the exercise from the data standpoint. Okay, now for that business result, what are the associated processes from the customer standpoint? And as a result, what kind of data architecture do we need? How do we need to build it out in order to enable AI to help us achieve those results? So for us, with our customers, is kind of from an end user standpoint, the business results is the core, and it gets translated from how we build the experience of the application, and we build the entire data strategy to then provide AI outcomes for that application that we are building in essence, right? So it's very similar in both of those, in the evolution for both within AppLab, and now for every process, right? Whether it's our QA process, how can we predict more bugs in the applications that we build? From a documentation standpoint, how do we create, whether it's the documentation for the code that we write in, documentation for the features that we write in, how can we bring in efficiencies and improvements? For us, human is the center of all of those. So looking at the key folks that will be driving that and making sure they are enabled with AI in order to drive the results in essence. So the QA team is still at the center. How are we increasing their efficiency and ability to make an impact within the QA department? For the development team, obviously, how can we create more code? And while all of that, how do we ensure that it's all within the right guardrails of privacy and security from a data standpoint, to achieve that within that realm in essence, right? So for every process within our project development, but also for HR, like looking at, okay, what are the key pain points? Where are we wasting our time? Where are we doing repetitive tasks which are taking a lot of our time? And there's frustration involved with them as well, because no one wants to do that role anyways. So how can we automate that? And now there's productivity there, there's efficiency there. So I always look at identifying, starting with, if you look at a quadrant, the leftmost quadrant is the easiest to implement and the most amount of impact. Then on the right side of that, you'll be complex to impact, but still a lot of impact. And the bottom doesn't matter because it's lesser impact, whether it's complex or not. So starting with the left quadrant, let's look at everything, both for internal process as well as for our clients. So the easiest to implement and is going to create a lot of impact. That gets a lot of buy-in, that gets a lot of motivation and inspiration, that gets them to feel it, okay, like, oh, you know what, it didn't replace me, but I'm much efficient. I'm focused more on doing what I enjoy doing. And I feel that, hey, wow, feel like I have these additional powers that I can now do my job in a lot more efficient way than what I used to, right? So kind of that has been kind of the formula for us, both internally and externally, from adoption of AI.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, I mean, definitely when there's so much automation involved, and you mentioned there's definitely fear involved with it. Will my job be impacted? Will I be replaced by a machine? So how did you foster that culture or environment in your organization, which led your team to experiment with AI tools and technologies for greater efficiency from operations standpoint?
Yeah, totally. And that's one thing that has changed, right? Where like we might have started in the AI journey like 10, 15 years ago, but that fear wasn't there at that time, right? Whereas in the last 3 years, ever since pretty much ChatGPT was launched, that fear has been prevalent. And also the pace has increased in a ginormous proportion. So for us to make sure we embed that as a part of our culture was integral. One of our key core corporate values is growth mindset, right? So that was integral in terms of adoption of AI as well. That a growth mindset is what is we learn through exploring and opening up of our blind spots. How do we do that? By failing, by experimenting, testing. We will fail by not being fearful of failure. We are able to actually experiment and try new things. And then if we are able to learn from that as a result of having that open mind versus the fear of failure, now we are able to incorporate that, keep opening our blind spots and keep going on with the journey. So that open dialogue and communication was the most integral part, where we had regular sessions about AI. And it was a combination of first, let's draw out the policies, let everyone understand what the guardrails are, let everyone understand what they can do or not do with AI in essence. So that's clear. There's no confusion. There's no ambiguity related to that. Step 2 was making sure that everyone has access to the right tools, making sure what are the approved tools, how can they use it, and things like that. Step 3 was standardization of certain things, right? So things like company voice, what do we do, what kind of communication tone do we have, what kind of like simple policies like let's be kind to AI, because again if you're interacting so much with AI, and if folks start being extremely mean or extremely rude or just cut to the point, cut to the chase, then that has an impact on how you are treating each other as well. I mean, AI is kind of a team member now, so make sure we are nice to it. And I mean, who knows? In the future, we want AI to know that we were kind to AI when it becomes AGI and starts taking over us. But all jokes aside, I mean that integrating our company values into the use of AI was also critical, so that's clarity. Okay, this is how we're using it. This is how we're going to get maximum in output out of it. Once that was done, a huge part was, okay, now take this into your department, and we call it FAFO, fool around and figure out, right? I mean, so in essence, again, it's experimentation. How you may use it will differ based on how the context, based on the process, based on what the intended outcome is. So start using it in small things here and there, and then come back every week when we have a company-wide meeting, AI meeting, to bring and share your findings, share your results. So initially it was just complete FAFO where, okay, go figure out, come back. What did you gain? What not? Then we started adding a bit more structure to it where, okay, now let's identify one goal or one result that you want to achieve. Now think about what can you use, right, in order to achieve that. And sometimes they might come, try to do it, was too complex. And okay, forget that. Pick another one where it's actually going to be easy to implement. And within 1 week, you'll have some results for us in essence. So they took back to the department, worked together and implemented it, tried to figure out, came back with the result. Like, this is a good result. Let's implement it now. So then we went and implemented. So kind of every department at the same time, right? They were all implementing, all figuring out. Their journeys were slightly different in each cases, but that one allowed them to completely use it and adopt it and kind of learn from it, fail a lot, things that did not work, missteps that were not right. The guardrails were already defined, the policies were already defined, so they knew what was the playing ground and what were the boundaries of the playing ground. So ensuring that, and even same thing, right? I mean, yeah, sure, use it with internal stuff. The guidelines included, don't use customer data, don't use so and so, right? So they exactly knew what they could or could not do. Brought in experts to make sure that there's some guidance as we go along as well. And then we created experts within the organization. So I think that approach where folks, one, they felt empowered in terms of using AI, felt empowered in terms of the use cases, felt empowered, I mean, more importantly, beyond AI, felt empowered from the accountability of the results, where they were now defining, okay, this I think will start creating an impact on my organization and actually have an opportunity to create a tangible impact on that. If I take this, experiment with it, I could actually see a shift that, oh, wow, there's a 5% change, a 5% jump by that activity, which I just spent whatever, a couple of hours on, or sometimes minutes on, in essence. That was very empowering in terms of whether AI or not. That was a big win that, okay, people are actually able to see some tangible result, what impact them, and they're thinking about how to kind of in a way identify the results and then own them and then try and working towards that. So that was, again, it was aligned with our culture from a growth mindset standpoint. So it wasn't that difficult to explain, but that structure kind of allowed us to implement, make sure people are adopting it. Also, again, right, there were some people who are fearful, who did not, who felt it was a threat. So educating and guiding them was important. That, like, hey man, I mean, it's here to stay, right? Want it or not, if it's convenient or not, it's here to stay. Now, how can you use it to enable you to do your job a lot better, right? I mean, that mindset shift is critical. If you're stuck in that, unfortunately, in the tech world at least, you can't afford, I mean, I would argue in any world or any sector, you can't afford to do that. But the other aspect I realized is, especially with a transformation that's so sizable, such as AI, it's extremely important for it to come from top first, right? So as a CEO, I could not necessarily delegate it. That, okay, you are the AI department, right? Because thinking, first principles thinking, which means a lot of processes might have to be uprooted and started from scratch, right? I mean, again, who's going to make those decisions that are extremely radical, that are extremely transformative? It has to start from me, myself, right? And then if I do that, I'm enabling my leaders within my organization to start making those decisions as well. And they feel empowered, and then they'll make the middle management and their own threads of reporting structure to ensure that they all feel empowered and they continue on that journey itself, right? So in a way, the responsibility of that has to be from the CEO is one thing that I realized. And then guiding everyone through the process becomes important, right? I mean, so that's what I would say. Truly, and again, we've always kind of believed and practiced on the same aspect that AI is an enabler, not a replacer. And we need, but again, the truth is, you do need the right people with the right mindset in order to truly enable themselves with AI, right? So yes, I mean, it will potentially will get rid of roles which were redundant, which did not add significant value to the organization. The opportunity there, right, is from an upskilling standpoint. Some of those folks, many of those folks, at least in our organization, in those roles, which can be made easily redundant, were able to then step up and say, hey, you know what? If now that I'm enabled by AI, I can take a bigger role. I can innovate, think a bit broader, a bit bigger in many ways, right? And have a bigger impact in certain cases as well. So yeah, I mean, AI hasn't cut any jobs at our organization, but it would have reduced some of the roles that we would have hired for because we were just able to make ourselves a lot more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sabha, wow, first of all, you've shared a lot about what you've done in your organization to support both adoption and adapting your business with AI. I wonder if you have like one or two challenges that you encountered along your journey in last couple of years or longer than that you would like to share with the audience so that they have some things to watch out for as they embark on this journey or are in early stages of AI adoption.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the first aspect I would say is just the fear itself, right? So when we talk about fear from individual roles, right? The second aspect, especially in the tech, I mean, the other aspect, right? I mean, in most of not just internet or mobile, right? Industrial revolution, whatever, printing press and so on. In most of those sort of evolutions and technology revolutions, I guess, it mainly disrupted the blue collar jobs, right? This is the first technology in many ways which is disrupting the white collar jobs, right? So there's one aspect, right? I mean, where, like my company is adopting AI so fast, am I needed or not? But there's a second aspect of fear that I'm a developer, I'm great at this, but will a developer be needed in 2 years, right? Does my role exist at all? And so if not, what do I need to think about? So there's that inherent sort of fear from an organizational or from a role itself standpoint, which is harder to overcome. And all you can do is just be in that process of curiosity, right? I just ask questions for folks who are doing it, right? I mean, we probably have about 20% efficiencies right now within our development process and our engineering process itself right now with AI, right? I always like to understand people's crystal balls in terms of in 2 years from now, what do they see? And for some folks, think it's going to be 80%. Some folks is going to be no more than 30%. I mean, it's a wide range that's out there. Futurists are a lot more optimistic, whereas traditionalists are not as much or don't want to, I guess, right? So really, I mean, being on that journey to try and, because it's an interesting age, especially in the technology industry, to have a crystal ball, right? I mean, as I mentioned, like you have, like, for example, you had a fantastic company called Perplexity launch a wonderful bot, not competitor, but equivalent of ChatGPT, which was such a great experience. And Gemini launches something extremely similar, right? And now you have $1 billion company, Perplexity, thinking, will they exist next month or not, in essence, right? So when such higher doubts of fear kind of get casted on you, how do you navigate that? How do you still stay curious? How do you still sort of continue to, again, right, have that growth mindset and continue on that path of just whatever, slight improvement, slight understanding, and so on, all obviously becomes a challenge in essence. So that would be just one at a higher level in essence. Apart from that, tons of challenges, tons of failures through the path, but that's the beauty of it, right? It was intentional. I mean, we had to fail in order to learn better. If you're not, I always say, we're doing a project, if you're not failing, either it was too easy and we've done it many times before, or we're not doing something truly radical or truly different, because then no blind spots are opening. So probably same thing that happened before, right? I mean, so in a way, we kind of almost expecting failure, expecting things to go wrong, and how do we kind of overcome that from, okay, really, let's identify what blind spots did open up. What does that mean towards what processes we need to change? Do we, again, when it comes to AI, do we have the right data? Is it a data issue? Is it a process issue? Is it a people issue? Really identifying and going to the root cause, in essence, becomes extremely critical. And for us, again, right, having that balance between compassion. So let's care about each other personally. Let's continue to challenge each other directly. That balance becomes extremely critical. So we are compassionate about each other, compassionate about, yeah, it's okay to fail. But let's challenge each other so we can both of us figure out what really went wrong and how can we do it better, and challenge each other to actually do better next time, while still from an individual standpoint, still caring personally, deeply, and ensuring that they have the support system, they have the safe space to experiment, to challenge themselves, to fail, in essence. So that combination becomes extremely important. And that balance is the most difficult part, right? I mean, in balance in anything is very difficult. As we evolve through this, it is obviously very critical. And again, last few years, right? I mean, from pandemic, where just from a culture standpoint, right, we had to really make sure that we are, as we suggest, we are truly human first, and that what being human first meant and what empathy meant, we had to go many layers deeper in order to truly care for people in the organization, truly care for our clients, truly care for the end users, right? And be there, in essence, listen more, be deeper in terms of our ability to make an impact and create that support ecosystem. And last couple of years, right, we had to put the other scale of the balance, where we are pushing even harder. We are as the industry is evolving, disrupting, as the economy and marketplace has gotten more challenging, we're truly pushing ourselves. And so that scale of the balance, you could argue that was balance, you could argue this is balance, but that scale of balance continues to change. And as those challenges come, how do you continue to redefine what the right balance means for you at that particular time? Becomes extremely important. And how do you stay level-headed through that entire course, to stay in the present, and continue to move forward is the most critical aspect.
Yeah, definitely. So looking ahead, what emerging AI trends or innovations are you most excited about, especially in the app development space?
Tons, right? I mean, there are so many aspects that are evolving right now. We're investing quite a bit in several aspects. We are obviously investing, as I mentioned, in personalization, and there are so many layers to it that I still believe we are scratching the surface. There's so much we can do to truly create frictional experiences. And that definition of frictional experience is also evolving. What we feel, oh, that was a frictional experience, is like it can be even more frictionless than that. And sometimes even the consumers are not aware that it can get better than that, right? But if someone else does it before we do it, or before the competitor of the products that we build in does it, then that's too late. So how do we continue to stay ahead of that in terms of truly creating that frictionless experience? A huge part of that is personalization. The better we understand our consumers, our consumer behaviors, the better we are able to predict, recommend, and tailor that customer journey in the best possible way. So that continues to be a challenge, and that's extremely exciting because of the aspects of what we can do in every industry, what we can do in retail, what can we do in financial services, what can we do in healthcare. Those are our main three industries that we focus on. It's phenomenal in terms of the impact that we can make in those three. In healthcare, as I mentioned, I mean, again, the ability to make transformation is extremely high. Difficult in Canada. It's going to take a lot more time in Canada. So excited about when we can start doing that in Canada, the impact it can have. But again, in US, where a lot of our work in healthcare is, we're really able to drive a lot of outcomes there already. In terms of the development processes itself, as I mentioned, they're rapidly evolving. So ensuring that we are on top of it, we are a bit ahead of it, which is interesting and tricky. When you are, I mean, like anytime we were disrupting any other industry, right? I mean, oh, let's build an app that disrupts transportation industry, right? It was a lot easier in many ways to think about it, right? And you thought that, well, you are in transportation, you should have thought about it, right? But actually, as an outsider, sometimes it's easier to think that first principles and think out of the box. When you're in it, when you're developing whatever, you've been building apps and building products and building software for 17 odd years, and now completely changing that process, thinking of how differently you could do things, actually becomes a lot more challenging than you would imagine it would be. So staying on top of it is definitely a big challenge, but it's evolving very fast as well. So for us, that's important and critical that as we continue to, again, help our clients go through this transformation journey with digital and AI, it's important that we are looking at our processes constantly as well, as they're evolving very rapidly, right? And if we are working on a 6-month project, right, to implement something and then continue to improve it, in those 6 months, those processes can potentially change. And how do we adapt to it? How do we stay agile on it? Especially in enterprise work, right? Because most of our clients are enterprise clients. With enterprise clients, I mean, we get locked in for a year for building a particular product for a particular process, right? So it's very different that within that course, you have to potentially change the process. So how do we do that in a way that actually has impact on the objectives and on the goals, and how do you kind of layer that as a part of our process that tangibly has the benefit for our customers? Because that's the biggest risk, right? By the time we actually launch the product, it's already obsolete, right? And you don't want that. If you're the company building a product, you better be first into the market with that product, with that particular functionality for that particular clientele. So that's obviously the pressure that we have, and to make sure that we are agile enough, nimble enough to not just we were used to pointing to other industries and other clients and figuring it out, but this time we still have to do that, but you have to point ourselves as well and kind of do that both in a tango and in many ways. So those are again the most exciting parts, but also the most challenging parts, which is the fun part of it, right? I mean, you get into business in order to have fun, and the fun is the evolution and the growth and the challenges that you kind of face that result in that evolution.
Fantastic. Beautifully said. Well, that brings us to the end of an insightful discussion. And then thank you so much for sharing your journey and deep expertise on AI innovation and all the practices that you have tested, and got the benefit from as your business adapts and evolves. It is clear that the future of tech is in great hands with leaders like you driving change. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Well, for our listeners, if you enjoyed the conversation, like, subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more transformative conversations on TIDES.